If you was me, because I want to do something really, really crazy this year, what advice would you give me?
Go to church.
So the Queen of Degeneracy really should seek out Jesus, like that man said, because I think it would be something that would probably help her soul a little bit.
Controversial people online.
25-year-old Bonnie Blue from Derbyshire is making headlines around the world for filming herself having sex with teenagers and posting the footage online. She's been labelled a predator and has even been banned from Australia and thrown out of Fiji after planning to recruit the young men that she describes as barely legal to film with.
Bonnie says she's not doing anything illegal and doesn't sleep with anyone under the age of 18, but her critics say the men she's targeting are too young to understand the repercussions of what they're doing.
So is she just a content creator making money or a dangerous predator who should be stopped?
So recently Bonnie Blue has decided that she's going to be doing a pretty horrific act called the petting zoo, which I think in itself, the fact that it is kind of almost a nodding towards bestiality, I think that she really needs to be questioning who she's being led by, spiritually at this current moment in time. Like, this young woman, I'm judging, and I know some of you in the comments be like, don't judge her, Like, we need to fucking judge depravity. If there are people out there that are partaking in paedophilia, that are partaking in bestiality, that are partaking in acts that push rape, that push things that are depraved, we absolutely fucking need to judge it. And I think sometimes there's this new age kind of spiritual bullshit that's kind of come in where everybody's like, it's not nice to judge and love and light. And it's like, no, actually, it's not always turning the other cheek. What we actually need to do sometimes is call something out for being what it is, which is depravity, which is immoral, which is wrong, and perpetuating something that none of us should want to have perpetuated in society. And we have to judge that, because if you don't judge it, if you don't look at it and you go, that's wrong, and I'm calling that out, and I'm going to judge you that what you're doing right now is a bad thing. You're not a bad person, but what you're doing is a bad thing and it needs to stop. I think it's kind of like the spiritual movement that's been co-opted by the Hasatan energy, where it's like this energy that comes in and goes like, oh no, you can't judge because that's not Christian, that's not godly, that's not spiritual, that's not love and light. And that is actually the thing that leads us to hell, The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And a lot of our society, the people who should be leading our society morally at this current moment in time, is doing a lot of this good intentions because you want to be seen to be a good person and virtue signaling, when actually we should be calling out and saying, like, that's wrong, it's depraved, we shouldn't be joining in on it. And judgment isn't a bad thing. I know they say judge lest ye be judged, but, if you're judging something that's wrong, judge it as wrong. And I'm judging Bonnie Blue as being incredibly wrong in her behaviour and her acts at this current moment in time. Bonnie Blue is somebody that pushes rape fantasies. She pushes a rhetoric that is hebephilic, to say the least. When you're going and getting young men who are fresh out of university, you're going to Freshers Week and going and do school holidays and stuff like that. It's reprehensible. And if this was a man that was doing this, there would be a lot of people that would have a lot to say. But because Bonnie Blue's a woman, apparently now we're all supposed to be supporting her because feminism. Woo. And no, like, going and having sex with near minors isn't something that should be rewarded, encouraged. And the fact that we're living in a society now that literally is pushing her forward to be something that should be, revered because she makes money and she drives a Lamborghini. Like, are you joking? If I was a young girl now, I know I'm praying that young people see this in my audience, that you recognize that she is not something that you should want to be. And I'm praying, Christ, can we ensure that young women today are recognizing that she is an incredibly damaged individual that is doing incredibly damaging things to our society, that having a career on OnlyFans is not something to be revered. There's no little girl that's mentally stable and well and hasn't been abused that at the age of 8 turns around and says, what do I want to be when I'm older? I want to be a stripper. I want to be a whore. I want to be a prostitute. Like, no, that isn't a healthy thing that children just suddenly think. Like, if there are young women that are thinking that, it's because there's some form of damage that has happened at some point. And I can remember when I was really little, I watched Gypsy Rose League, and out myself. I watched the film about Gypsy Rose Lee, who was a stripper. And, you know, and I was like, when I was younger, I was not very well mentally and autistic, didn't know it. But everybody seemed to like her and revere her. And so I was like, I want to be like that. And so I thought, like, if I was a stripper when I grew up, then I'd also be loved in the same way that Gypsy Rose Lee was loved and revered by all of the men. And I think sometimes when we're young women, we think that being wanted to be fucked is like that's the thing. And it's like, men will literally fuck anything. Like, they'll fuck anything. Like, the ugliest, most jankiest, most gross woman out there has got at least 10 men in her life that wants to fuck her. So just because a guy wants to fuck you, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you're revered. It doesn't mean you're respected. It doesn't mean that you're wanted. If anything, most men that want to fuck you, they don't respect you. They don't revere you. They're not interested in you. Because if a man did respect you, revere you, love you, and want to be with you, then he wouldn't just be fucking you. So because we've got this ultra sexualized, hypersexualized society, because sex sells, and in my opinion, our spiritual community is completely corrupted, and our society is being run by people who are spiritually corrupt and inept and empty. And so when you have people who are spiritually corrupt and inept and empty, and they are pushing agendas, they're not thinking about what is good for you. They're not thinking about what's good for you spiritually, what's good for you mentally, what's good for you emotionally. What they're thinking about is, how can I make money? How can I find power? How can I fulfill my needs? And, you know, the 7 deadly sins, you know, lust is in there for good reason, because it's the first one that gets most people to do what you want them to do. Lust and greed is the driver of everything in our societies. And you can see this. Bonnie Blue's desire and greed for money and power has led her to be a completely spiritually corrupt and empty human. She's vacuous, and as she says she's happy and whatever, but whenever she's challenged on things, all she can say about it is like, my bank balance, my bank balance. You know, I don't think she's happy. And she might be now, maybe temporarily, but I think that once you actually begin to grow up or mature, I don't know how old she is, you know, but she doesn't seem that old. Your prefrontal cortex not even built until 25. You know, and if you're a neurodivergent, it grows even slower. So if you're some kid who's under the age of 25 and you think that what you're doing is a good idea and I'm really happy about it right now, you're dumb. You're dumb, you don't know what you're doing, and you don't know how it's going to affect you longer down the line. Trust me, I've made every mistake in the handbook. You know, and I think the more that we grow spiritually, emotionally, mentally, I don't think there's any human on this planet that has done sex work that looks back and goes like, oh yeah, that was a really positive time in my life. You know, most women I know that have done sex work, you know, there's something going on underneath it. There's daddy issues, there's abandonment issues, there's self-confidence issues, there's self-esteem issues, there's drug issues.
In the industry for a total of 7 years. I had left at one point and then got involved with a pimp, and then he got me back into the industry for another 3.5 years. So it was a total of 7. I mean, a pimp basically preys on the vulnerable. And at that time I was vulnerable. I was dating a guy who was stabbed to death in front of me. I was deathly afraid, and he came in and, you know, swooped me off of my feet and, you know, helped me to get off the drugs that I was on at that time, and then basically was like, all right, it's time, you know, you're gonna be a bigger star than ever before. And his job was to protect me, and I basically gave him all of my money. They don't just come in like, hey, I'm gonna put you in the porn industry or in prostitution and take all your money. They're coming in like for a relationship with you, right? And so they make you feel like you're somehow, like, you feel accepted, you feel validated being with them. After I saw the guy that I was dating get stabbed to death in front of me, I was really afraid because I had started using crystal meth. They didn't find the murderers, and so they were still out there. And on crystal meth, I started hearing voices. The voices were basically saying, if you don't take your life, we're gonna come after all your family members. And here I am, like, hallucinating on this drug, thinking that there were murderers somehow communicating with me through the walls of a house, like just the things that I was believing, you know? And so I just was being tormented for probably 2 months when I just said, I can't take this anymore. Like, I'll just, please, like, I started talking to the voices, like, don't touch my family, like, I will take my life. It was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I went into the bathroom. I was at my dad's house, and I started slitting my wrist while on crystal meth with the lights off, so I couldn't see what was going on. And then I just heard another voice that said, turn the lights on and put the scissors down. And that voice spoke again, turn the lights on and put the scissors down. And that voice just brought me like peace and strength in that moment, that I did exactly what it said. I turned the lights on, I put the scissors down, and when I turned the lights on, I was dripping blood. And I know that had I not heard that other voice, I would have committed suicide that night. And how sad that my dad or my brother or sister would have found me on the floor bleeding to death.
You know, it's not this hugely empowering thing, because any woman who is actually spiritually tapped in knows that she is a prize, that her vessel is something that should be honored, and that doesn't involve letting every Tom, Dick and Harry come inside of you because they paid you a tenner, you know. And that's my opinion. Like, I'm sorry that if people don't like it. You know, I used to work on phone sex lines when I was younger, and like, was it a horrible, horrific thing when I was a kid? Like, was that something that, you know, I look back on and I'm like, oh, you know, I'm not ashamed of it. But now, I wouldn't do that now, because I'm not the same person, you know. And the thought of having those deeply intimate conversations with strange men on the phones, you know, when I was a kid, I was like, I wouldn't do that now. You couldn't pay me to spend time with people that I don't want to spend time with. But it's like, when you don't know and you're a kid and you need to make money, and I had addiction, it's like, no, you're going to do whatever. And talking on the phones to men, getting them off sounds like an easy way to do things, you know. And I think sometimes there's this idea that OnlyFans is easy, and it's like, it's not easy. Sex work is not easy, you know. There's a lot of people out there with a lot of competition, and there's always somebody who is more extreme than you. If you're dealing with these men, the men are also spiritually corrupt, so they want the most extreme thing, which is why Bonnie Blue has made such a name for her, because it's like, can I fuck 1,000 guys in a day? Can I become the most depraved human being on the internet? And she's doing a very, very good job of it, so much so that she's now been banned from OnlyFans, which I think is hysterical. So, you know, and this is the problem as well, because our internet goes off of sensationalism and clickbait, you know, it's leading to more and more and more extremes. And you see this with pornography on the internet. It's like, it starts off with one thing, and then before we know it, you know, we're in some real dark, murky, fucked up territories. And it's like, you know, you become desensitized to it. I don't think people should watch pornography. I think it's really bad for your brain. I don't think it's good for your mental health. And I'm shocked and horrified to think that there are like 12-year-old kids who have got full access to a mobile phone, and they're watching this shit on the internet, and they think that it's real.
Watching pornography and you don't think that it's doing any harm to you or anybody else, I would say that you're mistaken. I mean, you can look on Fight the New Drug and see what porn is doing already to your brain, and you've probably had some negative experiences yourself if you've been watching it for a while. And so if you're watching it and you just started and you think that it's harmless, I would strongly advise you to look at other people's stories that have been watching porn longer than you and see what it's done to them. Because I don't know anybody that's been watching porn for years on end that have said, hey, I've been watching it for years and I love it. I know people that just started watching it and they said they love it. But those who have been watching for a very long time, they hate it, but they feel like they're stuck. And because they've triggered the dopamine in their brain, it's like they're continuously chasing it, but it's never enough.
And they also think that that's how they should treat people. Like, how fucked up are our kids going to be? How fucked up is the next generation going to be that they think that there's something normal about having sex with 1,000 men? And I was absolutely horrified to see what some of these girls are doing to themselves to make money, you know. And it's like the long-term physical ramifications, and forget the spiritual, forget the mental, forget the emotional. Like, what the hell are these women going to need surgery-wise when they get older? Like, it is not normal to be having 1,000 men have sex with you in your rectum all day.
Porn sets, like, this is agonizing. This is painful, what someone is having to go through as they get the shots that they need for that particular piece of content. This is somebody who is having to endure for hours on end. It's extremely painful for them, and oftentimes they get lured in with an exorbitant amount of money that they're being offered to go be on set, and they really don't understand what then is going to be needed.
I can't even believe that this is something that somebody's having to say out loud on the internet, that we are now in such a fucked up, depraved, and frankly satanic world that we've now got young women who are having to go and have surgery on their back passages because they think that it's normal to be having that much anal sex. It's not. Please, for the love of God, get off the internet. Because 95% of the stuff that we see on there, guys, it's not real. It isn't real. It's not healthy, and it's not right. It's not moral. It's not good. It's not what you should be doing. And, you know, the people that you see on the internet that are famous, they are not people to follow. They are narcissistic. They are immoral. They're corrupt. They're spiritually inept. They are not good people. I can't think of a single fucking person in Hollywood who is a good person, who has not done something spiritually corrupt or egomaniacal or wrong to get to where they are. You know, I mean, that's a big judgment, I'm sure. But, you know, the systems, these industries, they are not propagated because of, you know, goodness, kindness, spirituality, love, peace, morality. That's not the things that we see, which is why we see such corruption in films. We see such spiritually corrupt stuff in films. We see such spiritually inept things in films. You know, drugs pushed. Just look at the music industry. It's the same in the music industry. Like, these people as individuals are not bad people, probably. But it's like, if you're partaking in something that pushes these agendas, that ultimately is destroying our society and is destroying people as individuals, how much money is it going to take you to do something bad to somebody else? You know, and it might be that you don't see the hurt that you're doing, but you're doing hurt by what you're doing. You know, it's like my whole business, my whole channel, my whole life, everything I've ever done, I'm always trying to, one, rectify the bad that I did when I was a fucked up human, and two, I'm trying to make society a better, healthier, happier, and more conscious place. And that's where I come from. And I might be completely wrong, and I might be doing the devil's work, and I might be an evil person ultimately, but in my heart, I feel like I'm doing the good thing by telling you what I tell you online, okay? And I do it because I believe in the law of one. I believe that we're all the same spirit, you know, and I think if I harm you, I harm myself. And I wouldn't want my daughter watching this stuff. I wouldn't want my children being indoctrinated into this stuff. So I sure as fuck wouldn't want to profit off of it so your children watch it. You know, and if you're somebody that profits off of harm to society or harm to other people, you need to take a very long, hard look at yourself, because you're part of the problem. I think that if any of you are looking at her and thinking, like, that's who I want to be when I'm older, you need to stop. You need to stop. You need to get off the internet. You need to go and read a fucking book. You need to get outside. You need to go and actually look around what is real in the world, not what you're viewing on TV or on the internet, because the real world isn't what you're seeing online. And real people, good people, kind people, moral people, ethical people are not getting shagged by 1,000 men in a day. Every 46 seconds, she said. Every 46 seconds. Just think about that. Think about, you know, and it's only the spiritually corrupt, it's only the emotionally immature, it's only the emotionally stunted that would sit there and be like, but I'd be so wanted. And it's like, no, you'd be so used. You'd be so used. You're not wanted, you're used, you know? And money isn't a fair exchange for your soul. Money is not a fair exchange for your sense of self. Money is not a fair exchange for your self-esteem. Money is not a fair exchange for your future happiness. You know, because most women that come out of pornography, like that I've seen, that are honest, they don't come out and be like, that was the best time of my life. Most of them come out and say, actually, I feel like I was exploited. I didn't understand what I was doing in the long-term ramifications of it. You know, I'm embarrassed that my children now see it. You know, that I can't get another job because everybody judges me. And it's like, you know, the problem there isn't the judgment. The problem there is the lack of judgment when we join in on this stuff in the first place. So OnlyFans have banned her. OnlyFans spokesperson said extreme challenge content is not available on OnlyFans. It is not permitted under our acceptable use policy and terms of our service. Any breach of our terms of service results in content or account deactivation. How long will she stay deactivated for? I mean, hopefully permanently, because she shouldn't have a platform on the internet. And OnlyFans really does need to kind of like step in at some point. I mean, when you've actually got OnlyFans that is saying you're too depraved for our network, you kind of got to laugh. you kind of got to laugh. That's like Satan turning around to somebody being like, I think you're too bad to come in our club. You know, it's like, oh. Oh dear.
Today we have set ourselves a challenge.
We want to bunk 150 McDonald's workers.
We are willing to travel
All over the UK, it doesn't matter.
as many as it takes.
What age, gender.
So if you do work at McDonald's, then please do let us know. We will have a little form you can fill out and submit to us.
So yeah.
Really looking forward to it.
Now, to watch young women go out and abuse themselves in such an extreme manner for money is something that I think is pretty heinous to watch. You know, as a young person, I had a lot of kind of mental health issues. And when you hate yourself, you will absolutely put yourself into situations that you, once you've healed, you will look back at and think, my God, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't partaken in those relationships, those behaviours. And I look back and probably about 90% of the men that I've slept with, I wish I hadn't, because none of them deserve to have anything to do with me. When you finally get self-esteem and you recover from your mental health issues, which I think Bonnie Blue has some really severe mental health issues. Either she has extreme narcissistic personality disorder, where she actually is gaining so much egomaniacal strength and virtue from what she's doing that she doesn't care about the pain causing to other people and to herself. Or there's something else that's going on that she just absolutely hates herself. And she's looking at this current moment in time as as money being this thing that's like, woo, great, how fantastic. But money's great and money gives you freedom. But when you have that level of freedom as a result of selling your soul, selling your body, selling your self-esteem, selling your mental health, there's no freedom around that. And it might feel good in the interim, but it will be short-lived. And as somebody who comes from a very incredibly spiritual perspective, I think that once you connect your soul back to, original source, I think that you would, anybody that partakes in these acts wishes that they hadn't done these things because you're defiling yourself. We collectively as a society do need to question whether or not these are the things that we want propagated in our society, because it affects our children, and what affects our children does affect our society. What we normalise and allow now is what is normalised and then built upon tomorrow. What we allow now gets built on extremely. And, now we can see people like these young women that are doing, challenges to boast sleeping with 100 McDonald's. I don't think it's okay for young women to see that, that selling your body on the internet. I don't think that's okay. The fact that we've got young women that are selling their virginities on the internet, and that was something that was happening when I was growing up. I was like, what the fuck world are we living in? And this whole don't judge people thing. Don't judge people. Don't be judgmental. Don't be judgmental. I'm glad to be judgmental. Like, I didn't used to be judgmental when I was younger. I was like, let people do what they want to do. And it's like, no. Some people should not be allowed to do what they want to do, because some people are fucking depraved. Some people are fucking depraved and they are evil and they want to do wrong things. So no, we shouldn't just let people do what they do. That's why we have a justice system. That's why we have a system that has laws that we all join in on, because we kind of go, yeah, actually murdering people, probably shouldn't do that, So what is this? What is this weird thing that we're all doing recently where it's like, don't judge people, let people do whatever they want to do. And it's like, no, we need to look at where this is leading us. This is the society that we live in now. I don't like it here. Can we stop? Can we stop? Like, seriously, people need fucking Jesus, man.
In the way that you don't care if they think you're a predator.
As soon as I saw the petition, I used that to promote my next OF video. The start of my OF video is a screenshot of the petition saying, hey, come and look at the videos that are trying to get me banned from Australia.
I think this is the problem. We now live in a world that is about sensationalism. It's about clickbait. It's who can get eyes on what, because your attention is currency now. But it's like, I think we as individuals, we need to shut off from this stuff. I want to weigh in, because I want, the rhetorics that I hear quite a lot about it is, just about from feminism, and just about this, that and the other, and yeah, go get your bag and how empowering it is. And I don't think it's empowering. I don't think it is what feminism should stand for. I think a lot of what third wave feminism stands for has become so dissolved and dissoluted from actually what feminism should be, that because it's been co-opted by misogyny, it's been co-opted by misandry, it's been co-opted by chauvinism. I think there's a lot of stuff in feminism that shouldn't be pushed. But I think that because most good movements end up getting co-opted by extremists and mad people, everything gets dissolved. The goodness gets dissolved in things, and then it kind of ends up in this place where we are now, where it's all this extreme world of people doing the most extreme things to get the most amount of money. And I know money is like, you're not here to make money. That isn't what you're here for. This is a school for you to reawaken back to who you actually are. And a lot of you have been so severed. Your connection to spirit has been so severed by the way that we live in modern society, that you are being led blindly towards your own slaughter. And as somebody who doesn't partake in these things anymore, doesn't partake in, the hedonism that I used to partake in, drug addict, party girl, out all the time, fucking who I wanted to fuck, doing what I wanted to do, making money, doing, all this stuff through whatever, I didn't have any morals, any spiritual connection, truthfully, to God. And not religious God, I mean God. As somebody that used to do all of that shit, now doesn't. I just wish people would understand that actually what you think is making you happy is making you miserable. What you think is good is not good here. People think that having money and making bag and being independent and doing what the fuck I want and having all this bravado and egoism and bullshit, that's good. It's not good. And a lot of you, when you wake up, a lot of us, because I did the same, we're going to look back at what we've done in the past and just being like, wish I'd woken up earlier. Wish I'd realised I shouldn't have done that. And the problem is that part of life isn't televised because society doesn't want you waking up. So the thing that you get to see is the downfall of people, the thing that's perpetuated, the thing that's put up on a fucking pedestal for everybody. It is the talentless, soulless dregs of society, You don't get to see people having a true spiritual awakening on TV. You don't get to see people going out and doing good stuff and charity work and having the massive realizations and doing the shadow work and, getting off of drugs and getting off of alcohol and getting off of porn. And who sees that on the internet? Where in Hollywood are pushing that? Question who you're following. Because y'all are on the road to a great inferno. Anyway, Sunday. 'Tis the Lord's day. Doing the Lord's work. See you later.